Hello and welcome to Java. My name is Jessica Glenn, but your students call me Miss Glenn. This is my virtual back to school night presentation. So on the first day of school, I asked your students to introduce themselves to me, tell me about their favorite things. And so in the spirit, I share a little bit about myself as well, because I want to get to know your students as both human beings as well as programmers this year. And so I model sharing that information with them. So a little bit about me. This is my family. I grew up in Southern California. I have a younger sister and an older brother. So I tell your students all the sibling things that they can imagine. I've been there, experienced that, so they can share all of those crazy stories with me. If I move this so you can see a little bit better. I grew up in Southern California, but after I graduated from high school, I attended University of Oregon, where I majored in math and minored in computer science. I was a huge fan of mathematics. I tutored it. I lived, breathed, slept, ate mathematics every single day, and came to feel the same about computer science, though was not tutoring that. I had kind of filled up all my time with math. So I showed them this photo to just kind of let students know like that this is a huge passion of mine, and that I'm also a math teacher. Shortly after graduating from University of Oregon, I head down to the Bay Area to attend Stanford, for where I got my teaching credential and master's degree in education. And I also shared this photo with them of me at a Stanford football game to let students know that I'm a huge fan of football, college football specifically, but also just sports in general, and that I want them to invite me to sporting events that they might have throughout the year, or to tell me about things that are going on in the world of sports for them. I also, on the first day, tell them a little bit about this class, and these are kind of my 4 non-negotiables. I believe that every student that walks into my room is a programmer, and with that they all have something valuable to add to the class, so that there's always an opportunity for them to share and contribute, which kind of makes our class this community. So if you notice, these ideals kind of connect to one another. So my goal is that we have this class community where we share and know each other by name, and are able to honor each other's contributions and value one another for adding and that kind of a thing. And along with this idea of building a community, becoming a programmer, all of that good stuff is learning, and that learning requires struggle, productive struggle specifically, and that I tell them that my job is to make sure that they are still struggling productively, that it feels hopeful, that I'm there to support them and help them, but that it is not something that's going to come easy or naturally, or that I'm telling them all of the answers all of the time along the way, that learning comes from struggle. For this class, at this point, hopefully your students have set these up already, but I require students to have a binder or a section of a binder for my class, so that way they can put all of our handouts and notes, documents into the rings. I have 3 different sections that I want students to have for the warm-up, the notes, and then any other handouts from the class. We take notes almost daily when we're learning about new topics, and often those handouts are printed out so that way there is code already on the paper, and their job is to annotate the code in that way so that they're not handwriting a bunch of Java. So with all that in mind, they need a binder for my course. And optionally, if they want to bring their own personal laptops to program with in my class, they are able to and welcome to do so. They just need to set it up, and they should check the syllabus to make sure that they have their computer set up properly. Additionally, students and parents alike have asked in the past about textbooks or resources for this course. And while the content of this course doesn't specifically follow any textbook or any kind of a resource, it's kind of my own brainchild after experiencing and living through learning programming not that long ago. There are 2 really good resources that I recommend. There's the free online textbook called Think Java that students can access, or a physical textbook that I really like. I think it breaks things down in a pretty kid-friendly or just like beginner-friendly way, is this Head First Java. I have a singular copy in my room that students can look at and browse, but if they wanted to get their own, that's my suggestion of a textbook if they wanted one. The grading scale for our class is the traditional ABCDF grade scale, and there are 4 sections that go into students' grades. The 2 big ones are programming projects and assessments. Programming projects happen at the end of each unit. I will talk about those a little bit more on a later on slide. Assessments also happen at the end of each unit. Those assessments happen outside of class. The projects happen during class. And then throughout the unit, students will work on practice work. This is the in-class activities and exercises to practice an idea that we just took notes on. It's really about them getting the code under their fingers. So on certain days, I will tell students to submit those exercises for credit. And I'm always clear with them about how many exercises I will be grading, which problem numbers I will be grading, so that way they can be set up for success on the practice work. And then finally, the syntax log, which again, I will talk about on a later slide, but it's a way to keep track of all of the things that they are learning in one concise document. So like I said, the exercises are something that students will do in class. They sit in table groups. So I always give them the option to work individually or with a seat partner. The room often starts out quite quiet, and then as things go on and the day progresses, students have more questions, they start to chat with one another, and their seat partners become a great resource for them. And while they're working, myself as well as student tutors who have previously taken my course are there to walk around, monitor, observe, answer any questions that students might have. To be clear about the grading for these exercises, I am looking for progress or completion of the exercises. Now, I want to make sure that they are truly attempting the exercises that are there, but it's not graded on accuracy in that case, or how good they are programming, as long as they're attempting the problem and the exercise that I'm looking for. That's how the exercises or the practice work will be graded. Next are the syntax logs. It's essentially a record to keep track of all of the things that they need to be able to say in the language of programming. I often refer to this like a language class that they are learning, just like Spanish or French or ASL. They need to keep track of all the vocabulary that they are learning each unit. So it's kind of a quick reference to all of that vocabulary. Every time that we're learning something new, my expectation is students are adding a response. The responses are something that should be logical to them. So after the first two that we did together, everyone's syntax log should look different, student to student. The generic syntax is like the vocabulary there, but the code example is then unique to the student based on what they typed in their exercises, and their note to themselves is something to make sure that that entry makes sense to them. They're remembering all the parts that they need in that way. And then the responses are used throughout the projects on the unit assessments to make sure that they're remembering and keeping track of all the syntax. Assessments, let me move myself. Assessments are given once at the end of every unit, and it's a take-home assessment. So what that means is I'm going to publish it and post it on Schoology, and it will be due a week later. So they have a time to work on it at home. They can come to me to ask for help. They can come to tutorial to work on it. They can ask each other for help with the ideas, not working together to complete it. And they can absolutely use their notes and Google. Let me go back for a second. In the realm of asking each other for help, I'm okay with students talking about big ideas of the assessment. I'm okay with students wanting to ask me questions or ask each other questions. However, looking at someone else's assessment and writing the ideas that they have written down while looking at their screen is then plagiarism. And we talk about that a lot in class with students as far as what is considered good programming thinking and collaboration and what is considered cheating in that way. So I want students to collaborate with one another, but obviously still submit their own assessment in that way. Assessments are not something that I accept late. However, I do allow for students to ask for an extension. I want students to be in the habit of asking for and managing their time ahead of time. So with that said, and in mind, I want students to ask for the extension before the due date, at least 24 hours before. Otherwise, I do not accept late assessments. However, if students submit an assessment and they are unhappy with their score, they are also able to revise the assessment. As long as they've completed the problems and made an attempt on their first submission, they can revise on a second submission to increase their score. And they would do that on this very same document and send me an email when it's completed. I'm just going to show all of this so you can see the examples. We do projects at the end of every unit. Projects happen in class and are completed in partnerships. Here are some digital versions of projects that students make throughout the year. And at one point, we have a physical project that students make. So that is a fake arcade game that's hanging out in my classroom, and students make essentially cardboard robots. So that's an example of a student in the past. Resources are available to students in a variety of places. Our Schoology page is a great place to find all of the things. I post all of my exercises for the unit on Schoology. There is also a resources tab and a video links tab that have all of the quick references that they might need to my materials. So while we're doing notes in class, there is a notes key that's posted. It links to the problems that are connected to that idea, as well as a video that's connected to that idea that either myself or a different programming teacher has recorded. And a link to just all of the videos that exist within the realm of programming that might be helpful to them is found right there as well. So the students can use that Schoology page to get to some resources. And last but not least, when it comes to getting help, tutorial is a great time to get help. I'm available for tutorial on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I split my time between 2 classrooms, which your students know, and they know that they can come visit me in whichever classroom I will be in for that day. They do not need to make an appointment. However, if my room fills up, I prioritize those students who have an appointment. And they also can email me. They can email me through Schoology or using the school Gmail or Outlook. My email is my first name _ my last name at fuhsd.org, and I take about 24 to 48 hours to respond. That said, if you as the parent have any concerns or would like to contact me as well, feel free to email me, and I can address your concerns. Ideally, I want your students to learn about the traits of self-advocacy. So if it's a concern that your student is aware of and your student is looped in on, my request would be that your student is the one to contact me so they can get in that good practice of asking for the help that they need. However, if there's something that you would like to reach out to me about, please don't hesitate to do so.